Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Rangers and the podcast today, or the ATR podcast for short. I am your host, Mark Williams. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be doing a Stanley Cup Finals preview with the big show tomorrow with the full crew here. But, of course, who needs a full crew when I got Mr. John Volkowski with me?
Some sad news in the NHL today. Mark, I know you just saw it. Anthony posted in our group chat before, but I actually saw it a little before that. David Pastrnak and his wife lost their newborn child. So our condolences go out to the Pasternaks and their family, and just an awful loss, losing a newborn like that. My friends, a couple of friends of mine, I'm not going to name them, but they actually lost their newborn baby a few years back, and it's just an awful thing. So, I mean, I've kind of seen it, and it's just I'm at a loss for words here. I feel so sorry for them, and prayers for the Pasternaks right now.
Your heart really goes out to them because it's just something unfortunate. I haven't had to deal with it. I too have had friends that have lost newborn, and it's heartbreaking. It's the only way to say it. Again, you actually touched on that. Well, Adam Graves had that happen to him his last year as a Ranger.
Yeah, his father and son died in the same exact week. I mean, his son wasn't a newborn as far as I remember, but
I don't know if he was stillborn. I can't remember, but he did lose a son.
Yeah, I know
Jackson Graves, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
but hard to segue out of that, but we're gonna do that now anyway. Tonight the Stanley Cup Finals are starting, and it's oddly enough between the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Two division rivals last year and next year, but that's what we got. The Canadiens got there by going through the North Division and beating the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7, the Winnipeg Jets in 4, and then shocking everyone in the Vegas Golden Knights in 6 games. The Tampa Bay Lightning rolled through the Florida Panthers in 6, the Carolina Panthers, that's football, Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games, and the New York Islanders in 7. Andrei Vasilevsky shutouts in his last 4 closeout series games. So, we could also we got the stars to look at. We got all the stats to break down with you. But to introduce you to the series, as we always do, we got to do a little WWE trash talk. And of course, where else do you start? You start with Mr. John Volkowski, who will take on Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah. The Tampa Bay Lightning are back in the Stanley Cup Finals. You want to know why they say that? Because the cream always rises to the top. Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at you, Carey Price, because if I'm Braden Point, I'm about to go to that top rope and drop an elbow on you and finish you off. Make sure you don't get that Stanley Cup, because the belt is always going to stay around the Macho Man's waist, no matter who has anything to say about it, whether it's Hulk Hogan or the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The Canadiens can't take the cup from Tampa Bay. Ooh, yeah. And I'll tell you this right now, brother. FIlip to know, if you don't start scoring some goals, you ain't gonna get the prize. Because the difference between Tampa Bay and Montreal is that Tampa Bay is defending and Montreal hasn't won a cup since Tampa Bay's first season in the NHL. Ooh, yeah!
And I couldn't find the zoom out for a second, so we were stuck in that brief phase. Now, unfortunately, we don't have Anthony in, so I got to fill in yet again. And I'll be taking on the Montreal Canadiens. You know, brother, let me tell you something. Everybody was counting us out, but the fans always believed when we were down 3-1, we were able to come back. And I gotta say, brother, this team's got a lot of hearts. They came back. They won not one, they won 2 overtime games against the Toronto Maple Leafs to advance. They had won and clinched the series in overtime against the Winnipeg Jets. And then they went into Vegas to try their luck. And let me tell you, brother, they were the ones that looked like they could be the President's Trophy team. They have a young man named Cole Caulfield. He has 43 goals this year. And what guy loves 43? This guy. So you're looking at Nick Suzuki, the guy that Vegas gave up and just lost to. But you know, it's going to be Montreal Mania, just like the Hulkster is predicting. And it's been a while since I did a Hulk Hogan impression, so it's definitely been a while. Because the hard part is we can't have 2 Macho Man. We can't. It's just it's not going to happen. All right, going to the stars to watch. Obviously, you got to point to Tampa Bay, and even though you could go with Nikita Kucherov, who's got 27 points. He's got 27 points in the postseason. Montreal's 2 top guys combined have 27 points, and they're having a good postseason. But it's got to be Braden Point. 23 goals, 25 assists, 14 goals in the postseason. Before I even flash to anyone else, John, what do you think of the idea of Braden Point possibly getting 6 goals in this series and becoming the all-time single-season goal record in the postseason?
It's possible. More than possible. He's capable of ripping off, 2 in a game here and there. I don't know if he scores 6 straight games again. I mean, that streak was broken, but I think he's probably going to get hot again. It's tough, though, because Carey Price is playing all world right now. If they can't solve him, obviously they're not going to win the series. But, I mean, Carey Price is an upgrade over any goalie they faced. You think about the goalies they faced. Bobrovsky just wasn't good enough. He just wasn't good enough. And then Spencer Knight was good for a rookie. He came in. His debut was awesome. And then his next game was okay.
I was trying to make you proud, Anthony.
Oh, God. But, yeah. Mrazek, Nedeljkovic, I mean, the goaltending really wasn't anything special in Carolina. And then in against the Islanders, Varlamov was an upgrade over those guys, but Price is definitely an upgrade over Varlamov at this point. So they're going to be facing the best goaltender they faced. I think they're going to be facing maybe the second best defensive team. Philip Deneau has 3 points so far in his playoffs, and he's one of their top centers, and Montreal has gotten this far. So that's a testament to how good Montreal has been defensively and how evenly spread the offense is. They have 4 lines that are going to roll. So it might be tough for Braden Point. I honestly think he ends maybe around 18 goals. I think he'll probably score 4 in the series. Maybe even 3. I don't know, but it just that 20 mark is going to be tough.
And matter of fact, the streak that he went on is the latest anybody has ever gone on a streak like that. Yeah. And you're saying it was terrible in reference to Pasternak.
Oh yeah, we honestly thought we were talking about Mark's promo skills.
Yeah, I thought that's what we were talking about with that. So
yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah,
awkward. But that's going to be a tough matchup, and especially we're going to get into his matchups in a minute. But for Montreal, I had to go with Nick Suzuki. Tyler Toffoli has more points right now in the playoffs, but Nick Suzuki has been playing fantastic. Right now, if you're Las Vegas, you're kind of going, we traded the wrong guy. They couldn't have taken Cody Glass. But It's he was very much a difference, and now he's got to be one of those guys that's like a key to this series. But Montreal, as far as the defense goes, middle of the pack, 165 goals allowed, 18th in the league. Tampa 6th. They were very tight defensively, but both teams have allowed the same number of goals, 37, in the playoffs. Vasilevsky playing all world. He's been phenomenal during the regular season and in the postseason. And then Carey Price had a very pedestrian regular season. I should know I traded him in my fantasy league. First, I drafted him. That should tell you that. Then I traded him. And, oh, by the way, I got back Freddie Anderson and Jack Eichel for it was Carey Price and someone else. So needless to say, I lost on that deal. I don't even know who the other player was. I definitely know I lost on that deal. Carey Price in the playoffs. Look, I know I have my own biases, but he has played phenomenal in the playoffs. You see the numbers against Vegas, 934 save percentage. Anytime you're over 930, that's always something to write home about. 2.02 goals against. Now, John, I know I'm going to say that like under that they kind of had an easy road to get there. How we doing, Justin?
How's it going?
And we got a comment from David also who's saying the series will come down to who has better goaltending as the series goes on. Price has put up disgusting numbers, and yes, he has very much been putting up disgusting numbers. But all right, so you might want to say Montreal had an easy ride to get here because they went up against a folding Toronto Maple Leafs and a Mark Scheifele-less Winnipeg Jets. But the series against Vegas, did that wake you up, John?
If you're Montreal, absolutely. I mean, the level of competition went from a paper tiger, a team without its number one center, to what was one of the top 4 teams in the NHL, and they shut them down. Mark Stone was shut down. Max Pacioretty, milk carton status. William Karlsson really wasn't effective. I mean, their forwards weren't scoring. So a credit to Montreal to doing what they were doing. You know what, Dave? I'm going to get to that in a second because
as am I.
That's something that I have said before, and I know I've said it in that group chat. But the Vegas forward group is completely shut down, and they're good to play that, playoff style hockey, gritty, fast, up tempo, physical. I mean, that's what those guys were like born to play. Your Marchessaults, your Smiths, your Carlsons, your Nick Waz, those guys all play that heavy type of hockey that you need in the playoffs. And Montreal just made them look like nothing. The forwards were ineffective in that series. The majority of their offense came from their defense. And Vegas' defense is great. Marc-Andre Fleury, I thought he was nah. I mean, I think what might have happened to Marc-Andre Fleury is I think Carey Price might have gotten in his head. I think you realize when you're facing a better goaltender and a goaltender that is playing lights out, it makes it hard on you as a goalie because you know that you've got to be damn near perfect to make sure that your team wins. But with that being said, the Vegas forward group is about here. We'll give them about like a 6 out of 10. The Tampa Bay forward group is about a 9.5 out of a 10. So now you're going to face 4 lines that can, 1, all score, 2, they're deep on every line. You got a good quality player on every line. Like look at that 4th line. You got Tyler Johnson and Pat Maroon on a 4th line. Tyler Johnson doesn't belong on a 4th line.
And the best part about that 4th line is the best player on that line has been Colton.
Yeah, Ross Colton's been – well, Tyler Johnson's been really good too. Tyler Johnson – you know what's funny? The offense might not be there for Tyler Johnson when you look at the actual raw stats. But if you watch the games, he's been creating a lot of chances, and he's looked really good out there. And Tyler Johnson, for a small guy come playoff time, he's physical. I know you remember that. He gave Mark Stone fits in 2018 in that Eastern Conference final.
He was actually Braden Point back in that final. And that
he was Braden Point at that time. But I mean, you got that line, and then you've got the Yanni Gourde line. And that line Gord's been a stud. He's been an absolute stud. He's probably been the biggest unsung hero in the entire playoffs for any team. So Montreal's got their work cut out for them. It's going to be tough, though, because Tampa Bay, I mean, they had a little bit of trouble with the Islanders' forward group, and Montreal's forward group, I'd say, might even be better defensively.
Yeah, and I think they played a lot of rope-a-dope would be the wrong word, wrong phrase. I would say they played a lot of let's just say opportunistic hockey. We looked up, we were watching the game in game 3, looked up, and it was the shots were 30-8. And I think they were tied 1-1, and they ended up winning that game. Granted, courtesy on the forgive the way of saying it, the Marc-Andre Fleury drop pass to Josh Anderson in front of the net. But like, I mean, that's where you end up making a mistake, and then yes, that's true. But Carey Price has been on the big stage a lot, so I don't think it's going to affect him. Same way it really didn't affect Henrik Lundqvist in 2014 either.
You know, and you know what? And you brought up the 93 team before, and this Montreal team reminds me almost exactly of the 1993 team. The 93 team had good but not elite centers down the middle. You had Kirk Muller, who was a real good two-way center. He was a 90-point guy that year. Stéphane Lebeau and Dennis Savard. And they were all capable of playing at both ends, although Muller was significantly better defensively than the other two. Then on your wings, you had Vincent Danfus, who was just short of a 100-point player that year. Brian Bellows, who was a former 50-goal scorer. You had John Leclerc, pre-Legion of Doom, back-to-back OT winners in Stanley Cup Finals. You're looking at players like Benoit Brunet, who reminds me almost exactly of Philip Deneau, plays that kind of hockey. And the defense on paper, I mean, look at it. Desjardins, Schneider, Odeline, Daigneault, and then a young Patrice Brisebois. But like that group was unspectacular on paper, but they played great as a whole. And same thing with Montreal's defense. Weber used to be a stud. He's turned back the clock this playoffs, but he's playing great. And then you got Jeff Petrie, but where are the other great defenders on top of that?
Joel Edmondson's had a good playoffs.
He has, but he's not like a great. Neither him nor Ben Sherrod are really great defenders. But
I do have to say, and I'm not trying to slam Montreal too much when I say this, but this is definitely not going to be the Maple Leafs, or even the Golden Knights. This is going to be, because the one thing all three of those teams that they beat have in common is they lacked center depth. Now, and by the way, the first two teams lost a prominent center. Toronto lost Tavares right away. Winnipeg lost Scheifele. We talked about that till no end. But Montreal, Vegas, by the way, didn't have Chandler Stevenson, who is their first line center, and their center depth was just out of whack. You look at their different matchups, and we're gonna get to the matchup that we're all looking for in a minute. They got a matchup against those centers. So first, who do you have your under the radar player in the series for each team?
I've been thinking about this one, and honestly, I think that in order to make a big difference in this series, I think you're going to have to see more from someone like Blake Coleman for Tampa. I mean, Yanni Gourde, we know, has been good. Tyler Johnson could be another one that you could throw in there, but Blake Coleman for me he's got to really shine here. For Montreal, I think Joel Armia is going to play a big role for them. Tampa
If
Bay,
he's available.
if he's available at some point.
COVID protocol.
Well, how long has he been in protocol for?
That's a great question.
I don't know the answer to that question, honestly, so I can't give you. But I mean, is Jake Evans coming back and playing in this series? Because if Jake Evans plays, I mean, that could be a one for them. I would say Artemi Lehkonen could be a good one for them. If he somehow chips in some offense, that could go a long way for Montreal. They need a little more offense from their forwards. And again, Filip Deneau, 0 goals, 3 points.
-2.
-2. But he's actually played well defensively. Those numbers are deceptive, I would say. So
it's like I must have the itchiest nose I must have the itchiest nose on YouTube. All right. So I guess you kind of answer the next question. Who's the struggling player to watch? It's got to be Filip Deneau, doesn't it?
For Montreal. It absolutely got to be. And if you're Tampa Bay, going right back to Steven Stamkos.
It's a well that will never run dry with him.
Yeah.
Because it's you need to be better 5-on-5. And it can't just be a deflected pass that lands on your stick in the first few minutes against the Islanders. I got another comment. Oh, wait. See, it's good. We're missing Anthony, but we're not because we got him right here. Cord stuffs his toe so bad. He gets out of it. Yeah, all right.
That's an Anthony Loracco comment. Is because I've heard him say that about hundreds of different players over the course of my years of knowing him.
You know what? Just before we get too far past the struggling players, I didn't give my under the radar player, which and I'll get back to the struggling guy. For Montreal, I think it's Cole Caulfield. I know he's not under the radar, but still kind of is a little bit. But no, I know. I make that face too, but I can still use him for right now. All right. Well, Corey Perry comes into play. They're going to need his physicality. He's got 9 points right now in the playoffs, 3 goals, 6 assists, 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals. See, sometimes it's good to be challenged. And yeah, I got to agree 100% on Blake Coleman. It's just that as far as the struggling guys that I look at with Tampa, I know you, like I said, the well's not running dry, but they're going to need more offense out of Andre Palat. 3 goals so far in this playoffs. He's got 9 points. The same numbers I just said for Corey Perry. He's playing well.
I can't agree with Palat. Not only because he's got, I get the goals are low, but the points he's
4 goals. I'm sorry.
And he's the defensive stalwart on that line by far. Like when Mike Modano and Brett Hull played together in Dallas, who was their defensive winger with them? You
just said his name like 9,000 times. What was it again?
3-time Selke winner.
Yeah. It's Yuri. Yuri Lehtinen? Yuri Lehtinen?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yuri Lehtinen took on a lot of the defensive responsibilities in that line and shut down guys while those 2 guys did their thing. And Modano was a really good defensive center too. So, I mean, Palat
under Hitchcock, it became a very good defensive center.
So, I would say that I can't say that Andre Palat is necessarily struggling. I get where you're coming from with the goals.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they could use a little bit more from him.
Yeah, sure. I would agree to a point, but the points are still there, and the defensive play is still good. So
the point is at center.
No, the points.
No, the point. The point is at center.
God, stop.
All right.
I work with children.
All right. So your key matchup in this series, John?
It's going to probably end up being Deneau's line against Point's line. That's probably the line that they're going to send out to deal with him. And that's going to be the big matchup. I don't necessarily know who they're going to do, what they're going to do otherwise. I could imagine them maybe sending Suzuki's line out there. I don't know if they would trust Suzuki that much defensively, even though Suzuki is pretty good defensively. But I could see maybe Suzuki's line matching up against Stamkos. That line with Cirelli and Colin. But yeah, that's the big matchup right there for me. And then on defense, I'm going to say McDonough and Chernak against Suzuki's line, because Cole Caulfield is really the hot hand on offense right now for Montreal. And they're going to want somebody that's going to be able to skate with him and shut him down. And Ryan McDonough could do the job there, even though he had trouble with Matt Barzal. Matt Barzal is just one of the top 3 skaters in the league, though. So, I mean, you're kind of going from like maybe about here, maybe about like a 7 or an 8 to Caulfield to like a 9.5 with Barzal. So, yeah.
And fortunately, we have another comment from our co-host. I hope JJ to know. Suits up for the Canadiens and rings towards Bell.
And the I crossed up there, Anth.
Now, because obviously the Shea Weber Danault matchup with the point line is going to be tremendous. So I'm going to have to choose a different one, and I'm actually going to go with the Nick Suzuki line, because I think they're going to be going up against Yanni Gorin a lot. So if they end up winning that matchup, that's going to be key. Because the way that I kind of looked at it when you send me the lines and I'm doing the chess match myself, I mean, you could say the Cirelli line versus the I've screwed up his name. Kotkaniemi line. But it's with Josh Anderson. Would you prefer Mac on Caulfield instead of Hedman on Caulfield?
I prefer McDonough on him right now.
Yeah. McDonough, I think, is the better skater out of the two of those. So
right now, McDonough is Hedman at full strength, not banged up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Hedman's clearly not 100% right now. I don't think he's close to it either.
Like, there was that shift in Game 6 that McDonough was stride for stride with Matt Barzal.
And then Barzal absolutely shook him and lost him. So, but again, we're talking about Matt Barzal. Cole Caulfield, to me, has that straight line speed and that speed to the outside. I don't think he can shift like Barzal can. I don't know if there's anyone that can shift like Barzal.
Now, the Canadiens will win this series if.
Wow. I would say if Carey Price continues to play the way that he's played, and Montreal can match Tampa in terms of speed and physicality, because Montreal, I don't like a lot of the things with Montreal is they've been able to outskate the teams that they've played against. They've outskated Vegas. They outskated Toronto. They've skated circles around Toronto. They made them just look poor. They outskated Winnipeg, which was a bigger team, and they didn't have the speed burners that Montreal has. Montreal's game for the longest time has been predicated on speed. They're up and down. They get up and down that ice surface like that. And it's Tampa Bay can do the same thing, but Tampa Bay also has size. Montreal has added some size, with Anderson, Perry, Stahl, and they got the size obviously on the back end in Sherratt, Weber, and Edmondson. But I just think that Montreal's really going to have to go stride for stride with these guys, and they're going to have to get the offense. Actually, I would say the biggest thing would probably be is the offense. The offense is going to have to come through, because I think they could do a good enough job defensively. I think Carey Price will stay in there, but the offense is really going to be the key difference in this series for Montreal, because if you don't start getting goals from guys like Danault, if Cole Caulfield continues the way that he can, he's playing, then Montreal definitely has a very, very good chance of winning that series. But if not, they're going to get left in the dust.
Oddly, you know what? Just to give a not so generic answer, because obviously you outlined everything perfectly. I'm just saying for mine. I think if they win the fourth line matchup, they might be in really good shape because that fourth line is Stahl, Armia, and Perry. And I think Stahl's got 5 points. I got the stats right here. I'll just put them up.
Perry's got 9.
Perry's got 9. We already went over that. And Armia's got 8. So you got 8 goals and then another 3 with Stahl. So that's 11. And everybody's going to expect that the first lines are going to match up the first 3. That's what they were able to do versus Vegas. They would pop in a goal with the Armia line or the Stahl line, and that would change the momentum completely. Yeah, that's where the depth comes in, and that's where their size comes in too. And a matter of fact, it's saying Eric Stahl is a fourth line center. I don't think I'd ever thought I'd ever be able to say that.
Yeah, it goes to show you how far along in our lives we are, because we both remember when Eric Stahl was supposed to be the first overall draft pick in 2003.
Yeah. I won't bring up the name who should not be named from the 2003 draft.
Thank you.
Yes. The Canadiens are in trouble if
it's generic, but if Carey Price falters any bit. I think if the level of play from him goes down, then Tampa Bay is winning that series, and it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for them.
This is actually a good question. We get. Oh, well, first off, let me give mine, which is they got to stay out of the penalty box. You don't want to put Tampa.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly what the Islanders didn't do, and that's one thing that really helped. That's how you can eliminate yourself in a series that quickly.
I believe Montreal though has killed like.
Thanks, Goldberg.
Thanks. Shut up, Goldberg.
You were saying, John?
Montreal, I believe, has killed the 28 straight penalties. I think it is.
Yeah, but I don't want to play with fire with that.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they've faced the caliber of Tampa Bay's unit, and the Islanders were actually a good penalty killing team too. And during the regular season, that is, I should say. And then in the playoffs, they were kind of nah, and Tampa Bay absolutely diced them on the power play, absolutely carved them up. So yeah, if Montreal gets into the penalty box, you're going to give Nikita Kucherov a lot of looks.
And again, it's like pick your poison. You have a 93% power play, 93.5 versus a 37.7% power play.
You mean penalty?
Penalty kill. That's what I meant to say. Then that's where it's one of them has got to give, and chances are with Montreal, as much as I'll give them all the credit in the world in the penalty killing, usually that power play will win.
Yeah.
Especially when it's that power play. Dave, by the way, asked this question: who is the biggest surprise player from both teams in these playoffs?
I gotta say Corey Perry from Montreal. I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna sit there and say Cole Caulfield because just to come. Basically, I know he played 2 games with Laval in the AHL, but he basically bypassed the AHL, came up straight up from the NCAA, and is just absolutely dominated. He was better than Chris Kreider in his run. We all thought Chris Kreider was really good in his run in 2012. But I've got to say it's Corey Perry. He looks like he's turned back the clock a little bit. He's played great. He's popped in. He popped in 9 points on their 4th line.
Yeah.
Like, how is that even possible? I don't understand it, to tell you the truth. But Corey Perry's just really been a surprise. And then from Tampa, I mean, I've got to say Ross Colton. Colton has really been a difference maker in the games he's played in. And he's not one of those guys that's going to show up on the score sheet, but every time he's out there, he's disrupting things in the forecheck. He's getting pucks deep. He's physical. He's a good skater. He's one of those guys that you want come playoff time. So I've got to say Perry and Colton.
Now, I'm going to have another word about the Montreal team of '93. Everybody's saying this reminds me of them. This one has never won 10 games in overtime, and it's not going to. So Patrick Roy was on another level, especially. And again, if you want to use the down 0-2 to Pierre Paget's Quebec Nordiques versus the 3-1 to the Maple Leafs, you could use that comparison. Then a sweep of the second round, then playing a team that came off an upset, even though it was Vegas. But Corey Perry producing on the fourth line is what David Quinn fantasized Brett Howden about on the first line. That is 100% true.
Oh my God!
But I mean, but Patrick Roy is the Conn Smythe Trophy winner of that year, and deservedly so. Would you say that if the Canadiens win, it's Carey Price?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What forward are you giving it to?
I want to give it to Tyler Toffoli. He's been very good, but
not a point per game player.
No, Goldberg. We did not mention that Montreal still has a capacity limit in this series. I believe it's still at 2,500.
You know what? I don't think it hurts them. Honestly, I think just having a home crowd in general. If they had nobody in there, then maybe. But they still have fans in there, and that's still going to help them. And home ice. I mean, you're gonna have to battle for having that last change. That's a big part of it. Is that last change always helps, because if they don't get that last change, then they don't get to know against point. And what happens when that happens? You know, then maybe that line wreaks havoc on any other line they face.
I'm surprised there aren't many more teams that they're just like flying to the bench, like the way the 90s Devils used to do. They'd be like, oh, that's the matchup you got? No, we have the final matchup because we're going to switch the lines right now. Actually, we got two more comments. We still have to give it. Absolutely, Price wins. The forwards of Montreal have been good, but nobody stands out like the way Price has been. His gaudy numbers show it. Yes.
I mean, couldn't have said it any better.
And just let them in. They're all yeah. By the way, that's what I gotta agree. They're all outside. What?
They're all outside. They're in a gigantic mass of humanity. There's no masks. Let them in. What's the difference?
Yeah, no. And by the way, Point does have competition from Kucherov, but it's one of those two.
Oh, I mean, you know what? I get that Kucherov's got the points, but just remember this for a reference point. Evgeny Kuznetsov led all skaters in the 2018 playoffs with 32 points. And he didn't win the Conn Smythe. Alex Ovechkin did. And to top that off, Kuznetsov was the first 30-point player not named Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin in the playoffs since Joe Sakic in 1996. So, yeah.
That was a hell of a run. And by the way, that's where Braden Point is heading right now. 18 goals. He's next on the list. And he's got a shot at – this would be great if I was still doing Mark's Weekly Trivia. Yari Curry and Reggie Leach. Reggie, the Rifle Leach, the only non-goaltender to win the Conn Smythe and not the Stanley Cup.
On the losing team.
On a losing team.
You know who you are to win the Conn Smythe as the losing player?
Wait, what was it?
The last two players to win the Conn Smythe on the losing team.
They're both goalies. It was 87 Ron Hextall and J.S. Jaguar in 2003.
Correct.
Yeah, I remember the Devil fans were booing him. They're like, yeah, dude, that guy was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
All world.
Yeah, all world that year. And then I want to use the words deservedly won a Stanley Cup in 2007, but nobody deserves a cup more than Henrik Lundqvist or possibly even Carey Price. And you know what? I'm not softening my stance, but still, Hank was my guy. Anyway, so our predictions are in. Anthony let me know yesterday the Lightning in 6 is what he's got. Filk, what's yours?
Lightning in 6. Wouldn't be shocked if it's a 7th game. I think that Tampa Bay, their depth, their speed is just going to be a little too much for Montreal. Vegas was a very good team, good defensive team, but their forwards just couldn't score. And I get it. Part of it is Carey Price. Part of it is Montreal's defense and the way that they've played. But I think guys like Weber, Sherratt, and Edmondson are going to have a tougher time with having 4 lines that can skate the way that these guys can skate. And tell you right now, you're talking about 4th-line matchups. If Tyler Johnson gets going, Montreal's in a lot of trouble.
As I see, we got another comment, but I'm going to do mine first, which is I have Tampa in 5. And it's not even a disrespect to Montreal. Again, it's sort of the same situation I kind of got in with the Islanders. I went, if this series goes 6, I don't see Tampa winning it in Montreal. And they nearly won in the Nassau Coliseum. Now, Montreal is on this magic carpet ride. Would it surprise me if they beat Tampa? Yeah, a little bit. But I also look at, oh my God, those gaudy numbers. I said it before. Kucherov has 27 points. Toffoli has 14, and Suzuki's got 13. That's unreal. Tampa Bay, by the way, has got 6 players in double-digit scoring. Montreal's got 2. So Tampa's going to find a way to put the puck in the net. And as they showed in the Islander series, they could play defense too. So it's just I don't see the way other than Carey Price stands on his head that they win this series.
Here's my thing. Like, Tampa Bay, to me, is a better version of Montreal with more top-flight scorers. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
They have the depth. Montreal has depth. They just don't have top-flight players. Tampa Bay has a top-flight players. And if the postseason has proven anything since the Devils last won a cup, is that the top-flight players win.
Yeah. And, yeah, I got to say that. Price is the Devils' last cup in 2003. So, because then Tampa won.
In 2000. And
then you had the Brendan Moore unit and Eric Stahl in 2006. All the guys on the Ducks, including Corey Perry.
Perry, Getzlaff, Solani, Andy McDonald.
You got to look at these guys and probably say, this is what scares me is Montreal's motivation. If they're playing as the Canadian team and representing all Canada, and as well as Eric Stahl, who's on his this is probably his last Stanley Cup Finals. Corey Perry has been in back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, but who knows what his future is. And that's what he's thinking too. It might be his last shot as well. So, they might have a little bit extra jump in their game. So, and they've also been here before. Perry's been close. Perry's had a President's Trophy winner with Anaheim, right?
President's Trophy winner?
No, they're right. They were the number 1 seed in 2015.
Yeah. I don't think they were the President's Trophy winner that year. I think that might have been Chicago. No, the Rangers in 2015.
In 2015 was the Rangers. 2015, 2014 was the Bruins. 2013 was Chicago.
Yeah.
2012, yeah. So I started it, and then I had to correct myself going, wait a minute.
I was thinking about 2015, and I was like, wait. I was like, that's the Rangers stuff.
It's even worse when it's the team that you follow that you couldn't get with.
Yeah.
Before we get back to comments, so we want to know what you think. Is Montreal the team of destiny out of the 1993 season? Are they going to hoist the Stanley Cup in Canada for the first time since 1993? which, by the way, John, what happened the next year?
The
We
Rangers
enjoyed it.
winning the Stanley Cup.
Yes. Is Tampa Bay just going to run and be the first repeat winner since the Pittsburgh Penguins and only the second in this millennium? Well, in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah.
So, as I was like, would you count Detroit in there if I was going to say that? Or Chicago's dynasty? But we want you to know what you think. Put it all in the comments below. The channel is growing. Everybody's starting to catch on, even though we're going to be changing the name of the channel and the program soon. So just stay with us. We got a lot of good hockey talk still to go. And usually when we have a third person, it works even better. So tomorrow we're going to have a longer show. We're going to take actually we are going to take about 10 minutes of Q&A right now. Unfortunately, I did not get any sleep last night, so that would be nice. Here is actually one of them from Dave. It's Jay Shigeru was very underrated, and yeah, as a Duck, he was. But I always end up kicking my tripod.
Here's the problem I have with Shigeru. Shigeru was one of those goalies that was a part of the crackdown with the illegal shoulder pads. That when you go down into the butterfly, the shoulder pads would pop up, and they would protect the top shelf. And once he got cracked down on that, Garth Snow was another one that got caught with those. They cracked down on those, and then that was when a lot of scoring started going up. So Shigeru was good. He was never going to be like that ever again in 2003 run. But you know what? You can't take away what he did. I think he was underrated to a point, but I wouldn't say extremely underrated. I think he kind of fits where he is when people talk about him in NHL history. So I think it's fair.
I think this is the most popular pick. TD says Tampa Bay in 6 in his opinion. And that's what it's looking at. By the way, he's also asking, how are you? You just want to pop in? Yes, let's go Rangers. Soon enough. We got our Barry Trotz now because Gerard Gallant's going to change around a lot. And I hope Chris Drury does a lot with the culture that was going on down there. I thought that would be John Davidson. I really did. And JD still has a place, in my heart for watching it for years. By the way, but TD, we will be doing a full show tomorrow, so join us again. And literally a full show because Anthony will be here. But it's like I've been saying that all week when it's the trash talk between Islander and Ranger fans. I'm like, we got our Barry Trotz. Things are going to be a lot different next year.
Well, you have to in this division. I mean, we've outlined the coaching gauntlet that's in here. I mean, obviously Bruce Cassidy's going back to his division, his normal division next year. But I mean, you look at it, Trotz. I mean, Lindy Ruff is, he's held in high esteem. I mean,
he's a good coach.
Say what you want about Vigneault. I mean, he's up there in wins. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan. But, I mean, the coaches in this division are just it's stacked. It's stacked. It's full of talent. It's full of great hockey minds. So the Rangers needed that. And honestly, if you looked at the games that they played, especially late in the season against teams like the Islanders and the better teams in the division, they were consistently outcoached. They weren't prepared to play. I mean, I don't know if that was just them saying we want Quinn gone. That could have been the case. But it just, for 3 years, they just did not show up in big games. They got smacked around in the play-in series by Carolina. And, and sticks of gums per game and good looks per game. That's AV's thing. Good looks. We got some good looks. But, you need coaching to win. And the Islanders are absolute proof of that.
And just one comment on AV before I go back to Quinn. When AV did a great job with the 2013, 2014 Rangers, didn't really change over much of the roster and got them into the Stanley Cup Finals. Yes, they had a little bit of emotional support, but they also had Henrik Lundqvist pretending to be a wall versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then they basically did the same thing. They were great in 2015. That team should have won the cup. And how the one thing about them is I think the sum of their pieces, all their pieces equated all. And when they lost one, it kind of showed. Like you saw that in 2014 where they didn't have Chris Kreider for a while. You saw it in 2015 where they lost Matt Zuccarello after Game 5. I mean, I still don't understand why NHL players don't want to wear earpieces. But this is going to be a good one in a second. But it's one of those things that I never can understand that. I would take every protection I can have right there.
To kind of expand on the point you were making, look at Marty St. Louis in 2014, and then look at Marty St. Louis in 2015.
Yep,
there was a clear step down. Like you could see, like he lost a step skating wise, and you know what? He was a bit older. I think
he still had 20 goals that year too.
I think he might have fallen just short, but I think he had 50 points that year. But you know what? He was a year older. He was, obviously the loss of his mother took a toll on him. They rallied around the team. But when you lose a piece like that, or a piece downgrades in a certain way, or he's not the same player or whatever, that affects the whole team. And Matt Zuccarello's loss was huge. Ryan McDonough playing on a broken foot. You can't. I mean, a couple of things really went wrong for that 2015 team, and if they went right, then you might be looking at a cup.
But here's to go back to this team though, and why the coaching matters, and coaching is different. Situations that you are put into, you better get the best out of your team. One of them that I thought never looked good for AV was back when he was with Vancouver. They had a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and they were the President's Trophy team. They were dominant, and they were outscored 10. I think it's 11-1 in the final two games. You have a chance to win the cup. You're outscored 11-1. No, that's not going to work.
In all fairness to AV, Roberto Luongo just absolutely crapped the bed in that game. And I know Vancouver, the players themselves will never lay the blame on Luongo, but some of the goals he let up in that Game 7 were just awful.
Yeah. Starting with the shorthanded goal to Marchand.
Yeah.
Now, as far as AV goes, like I said, he did a fan. I changed my opinion with the Rangers. I don't know if he's going to work out in Philly. I don't think he's a Philly coach. It was him laughing at Bernard Fiddler. TD said, out of curiosity, what do you think? What would you want for Eichel? Would you want Eichel? And what's a realistic trade for him? I know you kind of touched on it in the previous stream, but you missed most of it. And where do you think he eventually ends up?
One, yes. To get an elite center like that, what were we just saying before? Center depth wins.
Mm-hmm.
Depth is important, and Vegas. There was a rumor about Las Vegas, but that was basically speculation by I believe Spectors Hockey. Said that Eichel would be a good fit for Vegas. I don't know how they do that cap wise. I don't think it's possible. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But one, I want Eichel. Two, a realistic trade that you can make for him, I would say would probably be something like Pavel Buchnevich, and then either one of Ryan Strome or FIlip Chytil. I would say a first-round pick, and then I would say one of your prospects, either Vitaly Kravtsov, Nils Lundqvist, Braden Schneider, Zachary Jones, or Matthew Robertson. I would say those four pieces would probably be what it would take to get Eichel. And then three, I said at the beginning of the offseason, even before the Rangers offseason started, that when everything happened, that he would end up in New York. I still have a feeling he's going to end up here. I think they're the one team that could really pull everything together and get the deal done. Does Minnesota really want to deal Marco Rossi? Because they could, but do the Buffalo Sabres want him with a heart condition? I don't know.
Well, he wouldn't be the only person with a questionable medical history in that trade. Do I want Jack Eichel? Yes. Yeah, that's a short answer. Would I take him not knowing what the surgery is going to do and how he's going to be after? I'm a little bit hesitant. I would actually still prefer if he would play some games between the surgery and a trade, but that's not going to be possible. It's not going to be feasible. There's no way you could see him on the ice without that. A reasonable trade, I still think, would be, you said it before, I think yours is pretty close. You can get one of the prospects, one of the blue chip prospects, 2 first-round draft picks. Even though they're going to be lower, they're going to be in the 20s, hopefully. Because you're already getting a $10 million price tag. You're not getting a bargain. You're getting risk in there. I actually said to John and Anthony this week in our group chat that Kevin Adams thinks he's playing poker, but he's really got a get out of jail free card and a draw 4 card and Uno. That's all he's got. Because you got a great player, but he's got really 1.5 good seasons, or great seasons. I mean, not good seasons. And you're paying him $10 million through to 2026. And he's got a questionable medical problem right now. It's hard to say. I would love it if I can get him on this trade on NHL on Xbox. But the thing is, it's not being played on the Xbox. It's being played in real life. This is a surgery. It's going to take some time to recover. Then he's got to adjust to New York. Then he's got all the pressure that he's basically putting on himself. And, there's other things you hear. There are the times I watched him in Buffalo. There was a time I watched him in Montreal. He looked completely disinterested in playing. And is that going to change once you get a new venue? It could. It absolutely could. But you're hoping you're not going to get a guy with an attitude problem. That's what it comes down to.
You know what? I hate when the attitude problem thing. You know what? Honestly, if it wasn't the Sabres and it wasn't the way that they're handling things and Eichel was acting this way, then yeah, I'd say he has an attitude problem then. But this is the most drawn out, publicly aired saga between a player and a team regarding medical issues since the Eric Lindros concussion saga of 2000, where Bobby Clark basically called him soft in the media for actually having concern about his concussions. So I can't say that Jack Eichel has an attitude problem. I think any one of us would be pissed if a team did that and said, hey, don't go get surgery on something. Don't worry about your quality of life after you're done playing hockey. I'd be like, hey, go screw yourself. It just.
And again, I also want to excuse a couple things about that. When you're playing with substandard talent, when you're being asked to carry the line or the entire franchise, you are one of those guys that when he entered this organization, he wasn't exactly embraced with open arms in a way. He was embraced with open arms. What I'm saying is, at the NHL lottery,
wanted McDavid.
Yeah, of course everybody wanted McDavid, but then it took a minute to go, yeah, Jack Eichel is a hell of a consolation prize. Oh, you think? So it's now, but on the other hand, with the Sabres, they're going, we gave you Dan Bylsma, we gave you, we tried to spend money for you, we got you Jeff Skinner. It's just the Sabres have just made bad choices. They've made worse choices in players than I have in stocks, and it's one of those things that you're making the decision on a player at the wrong time. You're investing too much at the wrong time. It's just I don't even know what GM is going to turn around that organization. And I don't want that. I don't want organizations to be bad or stuff like that. I think that wouldn't be exactly right. Would there be a situation where you give up Zibby in a package for him? It's going to sound crazy, but no, Buchnevich got to go.
The Rangers or any team that tries to make a trade for Jack Eichel is not going to look to trade too much from their current roster, because the idea is to build upon what you have and not subtract from it, or subtract as minimal as possible. Not only that, but Zibanejad's got 1 year left on his deal. He's not
with a no move clause.
I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, Zibanejad has a no movement clause as well, so that's not even going to be possible because he's not going to waive for Buffalo.
Now, even though, by the way, when we first talked about this, I did suggest that Zibanejad could end up in that package. At the time, he was struggling offensively, and I also thought there might be a situation where 1-for-1, Eichel for Zibanejad, and Zibanejad immediately assigns an extension. That would have been a theory, but again, that's just theory. That wouldn't happen. But go ahead, John.
But here's the thing, though. You have to look at a few different factors that I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on here before. You have to look at a few different factors. You got to look at, one, the amount of teams that can pony up a package for Eichel. 2, you've got to look at the number of teams that have the want and they're at the right point in time to make a deal for Eichel. And 3, then you've got to worry about the teams that can fit him under the cap. And then after you're done with all that, then what you have to worry about is the amount of teams that can put all of that together and come to the table and say, hey, you know what, this is what we've got. And then the no movement clause that kicks in a year. So Adams has to find a needle in a haystack, work with them, and then work against the clock because he's got that no movement clause that kicks in next year. It's going to be tough for Adams. I think in order to make this deal work, because he cannot bring back Jack Eichel next year. That bridge has been burned. Too much of a distraction. I know you've mentioned that before. I don't see it happening. I just don't. And if it does, color me shocked. I'll buy you dinner. We'll get together. I'll buy you dinner if that happens.
Actually, I owe you guys dinner too, so or drinks at least.
But yeah, I don't see it happening. And you know what you said, the games played thing, that would be ideal. But again, that's going to be part of the reason why that value is going to be reduced, because everybody is taking on a risk that takes on this contract, and you're taking on a $10 million cap hit that chews up a lot. And Buffalo's not going to want to take a lot of salary back in return. So either they're going to have to retain or they're going to have to take a contract back in return to make this work. But Adams has got to be more flexible if he wants to make a deal. And if he's not going to, then that no movement clause kicks in and Eichel controls where he goes. And that's going to plummet.
Now, the reason why, TD, why I always talk about that Buchnevich has to get moved is because I still think there's a ceiling on Pavel Buchnevich. We're not looking at a 30-goal scorer. Maybe in the right situation, maybe with somebody, but I think as a New York Ranger, he'll be a steady player. He'll be pretty good. I don't dislike a player because I say you have to move him. I just don't want to overpay for a player, especially when you have Vitaly Kravtsov knocking on the door. And if Vitaly Kravtsov ends up getting more time with, say, Artemi Panarin, then and he ends up being the player we think Buchnevich is going to be, then you're just you lose that bargain. And the Rangers got potentially three elite talents on entry-level contracts in Lafreniere, Kakko, and Kravtsov. You can't just throw money at Pavel Buchnevich and go, all right, well, because there's only so many power play slots. There's only so many top six forwards. And there's only so many spots that you could do with them. And they already gave that money to Chris Kreider, who I'm glad you just brought that up. What about a guy like Chris Kreider? I know we just signed him. He's too streaky and unreliable, in my opinion. Once again, it might be an unpopular opinion. It's actually not that unpopular. There's a lot of Ranger fans that want to get rid of him. Not me, president of the Chris Kreider fan club.
3 words, though, TD. No movement clause.
And that's the thing. These are getting handed out like there's no tomorrow, and it's been going that way ever since Wade Redden. And there are no movement clauses, no trade clauses. So they don't want to go to Seattle. They don't want to go to the minor leagues. So that's why they got those in place. I know they existed before Wade Redden, but everybody went, I'm not getting on a bus to Hartford for $6.5 billion. It's Kreider's role going forward is going to be what's interesting. I think he might be a third liner as early as next year.
I just don't think that there's any reason for Chris Kreider to be playing on that top line over Alexis Lafreniere at this point. I get you've got speed and size with Kreider. Lafreniere will work on the skating. That will be fixed. If Brian Boyle could work with Barbara Underhill and change everything and become an NHL caliber skater after he looked like he was moving in quicksand prior to 2009-10 season, then Alexis Lafreniere can become a top level skater. And Mikko Rantanen did the same thing. When he first came up, he wasn't a great skater, but he worked on it and he got better. And now he's able to play with Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, he's not as fast as MacKinnon. Obviously, there's barely anybody that actually is. But Alexis Lafreniere is just so talented. He's such a talented playmaker. He has the shot that Kreider has. He has the hockey sense that Kreider doesn't have. I mean, he's got everything. He's going to be your franchise guy. You have to start putting your players in positions to succeed, and that's what Gerard Gallant's going to do with them. Just look at what he did with Huberdeau and Barkov in Florida.
Mm-hmm. I just wonder if Lafreniere or Kakko is going to end up on the right wing, and it's going to be Kreider and Zibanejad, saying that those two have chemistry. But I love what Lafreniere was bringing at the end of the season. John Tavares also was a guy that fixed his skating. Yes. And so there's a number 1 draft pick right there. So it's not just number 1 draft picks that have that. I think there is. Sorry, what?
No, it's funny you mentioned that because I don't know if I said this on here, but I mean, I was with Anthony at the draft party when they drafted Tavares in 2009. And the minute he was drafted, I said, listen, this guy will be an elite player if he fixes his skating. And when that 2011-12 season started, you could see the difference between that year and the couple of years that were beforehand. And he scored 80 points that year, 30 goals and 80 points that year.
And what happened the next year? He was nominated for the MVP.
Yeah.
So
2 years later. 2 years later, actually, sorry.
2013 and 2015.
2011, 2012 season was when he scored.
All right, so you're saying 2011 is when you saw the skating was different, and then 2 years later.
A mock trade including Georgiev. If that's a piece that can go in there.
Yeah, but they're trying to sign Linus Ullmark. So
I don't know
think that's going to help.
There, though. And Georgiev could give them close to starter quality goaltending. I mean, it doesn't matter who you have behind there. You could have Dominik Hasek in his prime behind that team. That team's still going to get shelled because they're just literally AHL caliber players.
Which is why they really need veteran defensemen. They need some kind of like. If we could sit here all day and figure out all the things that Buffalo needs.
Everything.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I also want to plug it because, I mean, I would love to have her on the show. But Melody Martin, who was a YouTuber and Buffalo Sabres fan, she's fantastic with it. She did a song called "We Are Never Getting Back to the Playoffs." It's the Taylor the Swift one, which is "We are never, ever, ever getting back to the playoffs." It is hilarious. And she's got a bunch of those, like "Hey There Delilah" was "Hey There, Hey Jason Botterill." Branching off of that, and I'm going to like including a guy. I wouldn't mind releasing Brett Howden right now.
I don't think Brett Howden holds any value to a team like the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, it's
what they have. And I'm not even sure. I mean, he probably would make their lineup, but it's another redundant player.
Yeah, it's sort of like you got to ask what Buffalo's going to do with these players once they get them. I mean, I would have loved to have tried to see if you could acquire Casey Middlestat, and now it looks like he's revived his career in Buffalo. Yeah, that parody is fantastic. But I mean, the Sabres need a lot, and if you're trading Jack Eichel, you're really tearing it down. I mean, I pose the idea of going after Sam Reinhart instead, and Filk talked me out of that a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, to explain what I said to Mark basically, and I think a lot of Ranger fans will agree with this when they hear it, is why would you go out and give up assets for what's really, I don't want to say marginal, because it makes it sound like I'm diminishing Sam Reinhart, but it really is kind of a marginal kind of return statistically or a marginal upgrade, over Ryan Strome.
That's why.
And not only that, but you're risking chemistry. Ryan Strome and Artemi Panarin, whether anyone likes it or not, have obvious chemistry. Artemi Panarin has played with Ryan Strome almost exclusively at even strength since the 6th game of the 2019-20 season against Vancouver, which was the very last game that Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin played on a line together at even strength for like the full span of a game. And that was October of 2019. So obviously there's chemistry. Obviously they like playing together. The idea is if you're going to risk the chemistry there, you've got to have a significant upgrade. And that's why I say it's got to be Eichel. You can't go Reinhart there.
I kind of agree with that. Now, the question is, given up the farm for Eichel, you could probably find better players to go out and go get. But once guys get assets, they're not giving up. It's not like you're going to get. I threw this name out there just to say Pierre-Luc Dubois last week. John, of course, called me an idiot. No, he's like, no, that's not going to happen because Winnipeg has got him for a reason. And as much as I would love to try to make a deal to go get Mark Scheifele, whose price tag is cheaper, Winnipeg is also going to go, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to wait a few more years. Because small market teams, it's got to be more viable for them. And Buffalo's never has problems spending money either. So they don't mind. The duels is spend money.
Not like he spends on Buffalo, like the Buffalo Bills. He doesn't.
There's only so much he can spend in the NHL. He's paid Jack Eichel's line mate $9 million. He went after Christian Ehrhoff, and well, that didn't exactly work out.
But here's the thing: Jack Eichel has a signing bonus of $7.5 million that also kicks in on the same day that his no movement clause kicks in. Terry Pegula has handed out exactly two contracts for multi-year deals for an AAV higher than that $7.5 million. And I'm pretty sure you know who they are because you just one of them. And the other one is the guy that we're talking about. The only other contract that he's handed out even for 1 year for an AAV of higher than $7.5 million is Taylor Hall.
Scored 2 goals, by the way.
Yeah. Taylor Hall. That's it. So,
hockey's Bryce Harper.
I don't see that. I don't see Terry Pegula going out and spending the money. I mean, he's got to do so. I think that's the real problem in Buffalo. It's not their front office. It's the owner. The owner is the problem.
And is his wife still running the organization?
I'm not sure if Kim runs the Sabres. I know she's close on, but I'm not sure if it's Kim or Terry there, so I don't want to.
Well, getting further into that, I mean, they had the anniversary, I think, of the 99 Cup finalist team, and they gave him Chinese knockoff jerseys, which I don't mind wearing it myself. How do you give it to your players? It's and you're the professional organization. So no, it's
that's a no. That's going to be a no.
that's a no. So Taylor, the Mercenary Hall. Yeah. But again, hey, you know what? Boston got all of 5 goals, 2 in the regular season, 2 in the postseason from him. Oh wait, or is it 4 in the post? He had 4 in the regular season for Boston.
Yeah, I mean the good part about that trade though is that they're not gonna regret giving up much. I mean, it was a second round pick in Anders Bjork, so I mean they really didn't give up a lot for him.
Yeah.
So I mean it's not really going to hurt them in the long run. Supposedly the word is that Hall wants to stay in Boston. I just don't know how keen Boston is on spending the money on Hall when there might be a Gabriel Landeskog available.
Yeah. Especially when every team could use a Gabriel Landeskog. I mean, hell, every team could use an Alexander Ovechkin that's going to be available in free agency. I think I had the list of the free agents that I was looking at, but whenever it comes to me looking at the free agents, Phil, I keep going back and going, we don't need a top 6 guy. We don't. The Rangers, they don't even need a top 4 defenseman. I actually think this team might benefit more by some minor signings like a 4th line center and not breaking the bank, or even possibly from within. I mean, I always heard about Carl Hendrickson. I don't know how close he is. I'm not saying he's anywhere close, but you still sign a 4th line center for a 1-year deal. Somebody that can win faceoffs, somebody that can play in the defense, play well, penalty killing. Because they don't have a faceoff guy. That's for one thing with the Rangers. It's just, yeah.
I don't know if I saw this correctly or not, but I think Mark Letestu just retired, and that would have been a guy that would have really fit the bill for me on the 4th line. But I've mentioned these names before. I'll mention them again. Casey Zizekas, Sean Corrali, Matt Calvert, Tomas Nosek.
I would love Matt Calvert on this team.
Matt Calvert would be good. I rank the other guys a little higher than him. Zizekas and Corrali both play center, so I would want those two. I do like Calvert, but I think Tomas Nosek would be another one. Ooh, who is the under the radar player that you both think needs to have a breakout year for the Rangers to really take that next step? Someone people wouldn't expect. You know what? We're talking about 4th liners, and I think someone that can actually go a decent way towards helping them get there would probably be if Morgan Barron developed into a legitimate bottom 6 player. And I think he can. I think maybe that's what the Rangers do there is they give Morgan Barron the reins and let him just marinate down in the bottom 6 and hopefully give them some offense and give them some quality minutes there. So I would probably say Morgan Barron would be one for me.
I could very much cheat and say it's Vitaly Kravtsov since he was a 4th liner under David Quinn.
He's kind of expected though.
Yeah, I know, but that's why it is.
Maybe FIlip if he's still here.
That's the guy I was going to go with. I was going to go with FIlip because I think better coaching might get FIlip to be a better player. Like, I mean, I am not as enamored as I was in FIlip, but and there's a good one in the comments right now of another radar player. I'm not as enamored with FIlip as I once was, but I'll tell you one thing. I think he could really be a better player with better coaching. How about this one? And I hope he still stays on this team. Come right after the expansion draft, Julian Gauthier.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to end up getting lost in the shuffle either way. I mean, he could be a piece that would go in a Jack Eichel trade. There's definitely some value. I'm not very high on Libor Hajek. I wasn't ever really that high on him, even when the trade was made 3 years ago for Ryan McDonough. but something just doesn't seem like it's gonna ever. It doesn't seem like it's ever gonna really add up for him at the NHL level. And I hate to say that, but it just the skating needs a lot of fixing. The offense really isn't there, and he makes a lot of, and I mean a lot of. I don't want to say boneheaded, but very questionable decisions with the puck. I just don't. I don't think he's gonna. I think what you kind of see is what you're gonna get with Hayek.
Defensive player to step up. I mean, I think you're going to get better out of Calendar Miller. Right away, I want to say that. I guess that by transitive property, Jacob Trouba is going to be better. Who's their fifth and sixth defenseman next year? Are we looking at a free agent and Nils Lundqvist, or we're looking at Tom Rionen?
Are they going to go after Alec Martinez or Brandon McNabb, I believe, is under contract, so I think that would have to be a trade. But Alec Martinez is a free agent, and maybe that could help.
I can't help but ask why.
Oh, you know what? I know I hate the name too.
It's not even that. It's not even the name. I know he's a pretty good defenseman, but if you're telling me your top prospect is a defenseman, you already have Adam Fox, who I think is the Norris Trophy winner this year. They play a 1-3-1 on the power play. So if you go to the next guy, this is where I ask you. We played the highlights of Nils Lundqvist and called it porn. Does that make him expendable? Because then you can only have really one power play quarterback on one unit and one on the other one. I still think there's a place for him on this team. I think he's got the most high-end elite potential out of anybody. It's just, and then to go Alec Martinez for what, a fifth or sixth defenseman?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What do they have? Brendan Smith's a free agent. And I really, if I have to choose between Brendan Smith and Alec Martinez, I'm choosing Alec Martinez. Anthony Bitetto's not an NHL caliber defenseman. And as actually, like, I have friends that are connected to Bitetto, and I want Bitetto to do well, but he just hasn't shown you that he's a real NHL regular defenseman at this point. So, I mean, having him around as like a 7 or AHL depth, that's great. That's fine. That's exactly where he is. And good for him. You know, I hope he stays in the Rangers organization in that regard, since he's closer to home. He's an Island Park guy. But I would say if you're choosing between, you know, bottom pairing defensemen between Smith and Martinez, you go with Martinez. And Martinez would be a better defenseman, a veteran defenseman who has pedigree of winning, to kind of help Nils Lundqvist in that bottom pair and kind of insulate him. And you can use Nils Lundqvist as a second power play option. So I think maybe that's why they look at Alec Martinez. But again, if you go get Jack Eichel, you're going to have a lot less space for that unless you move someone else in another deal. Or, you know, Ryan Strome maybe has to go at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, another thing is I think Alec Martinez is his last contract his last big contract he'll get. So it's sort of, why would you want to be a fifth defenseman on the Rangers instead of a first or second somewhere else? I just don't see the Alec Martinez thing. I do see Brendan Smith potentially coming back as a seventh defenseman. So I know. Oh, I know. I know you made the face, and I'm there with you on that. The ship has sailed. Credit to him for what he's done, but if he wants to stay, you're going to be a part-time player at best. They got all right. Hold on. What's your expectations for the Rangers this season? Yes, record-wise, and how far you think they can go, and what do you want to see for this team as far as growth goes?
I think they could be a playoff team. I think they're probably anywhere between a bubble team and like maybe a 7th seed at best. It depends on the playoff format. I would like them to get away from the wild card format because I think that format just sucks, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It just a lot of the same teams keep facing the same teams. You keep seeing the same matchups. You need to create new rivalries, so get away from that.
I would love to go back to 1-8.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love 1-8. I really would, especially with 2 divisions. And honestly, you don't even need to have 4-4 from each division. Just give the top 2 seeds, give them berths, and then let the rest of the 2 divisions fight it out.
Yeah, and I take that too.
I would love that because I think you would see more matchups. I think, especially with Seattle, like you want Seattle to have a chance to make the playoffs. If your primary focus in terms of playoff seeding and playoff eligibility is divisional play, then I don't think Seattle's going to do very good, and I think you kind of put them at a disadvantage there because that division's tough. So,
and it's not going to get any easier for the Rangers as far as if, let's say, they just do the Eastern Conference the way it's traditionally set up, the way it's been.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal is behind them in points, and they're in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. It's possible for Montreal to win the Stanley Cup and then not make the playoffs in the next year. Like,
yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, if Carey Price is hurt next season, or he goes back to playing that mediocre style of mediocre hockey he was playing during the regular season, I mean, Shea Weber regressed a bit.
Think about it like this, though. That's just Montreal, just Montreal's division. Tampa Bay is going to take a step back because they're going to lose some players this year. That's why they know they're gearing up for this.
They're still going to be one of the very best teams in the league, though.
They're still going to be really good, but you got a lot of those guys. And I know Sean just sent a text, so a comment, so we have to check that. But you got Tampa Bay. Florida looks like they're back. Boston still is going to be there, and Toronto's back in our conference. Then you go to the Metropolitan Division, and you have the Islanders, the Devils. Sorry, not the Devils. Yeah, the Islanders, the Capitals, the Penguins. You tell me the Capitals, the Penguins are done. Well, you let me know. And then you still got the Flyers. Do the Flyers bounce back? Is this just an aberration? Is it? They could potentially, and I'm telling you this from hiring Gerard Gallant and the team they have right now, and the talent they have in their system that can come up for this. They can be anywhere from, I'm not going to say a division winner, but I wouldn't be surprised. But they can get to like a second place in their division, all the way down to being a seventh ranked team, like you said, a bubble team, maybe like 9th that'll just miss the playoffs again. But I like their goaltending tandems. I like it better if they had a veteran traded Georgiev while he still has value, because I'm not a believer Alexander Georgiev is the number 1 in the league, and I'm also not sure if he is really a backup either. I don't know what his role is just yet. I have a weird feeling that the Rangers tried to trade for Ryan Reeves. You guys see something like this?
Yeah,
not really. Yeah, but something like that. Do you see them trying to get like a heavyweight?
No, I don't see it. I mean, is it possible? Yes. I don't personally see it. The guy isn't a very good hockey player. I mean, can he? Is he better than your enforcers from back in the day? Guys like Steve McKenna, Dale Purinton, Peter Worrell, guys like that.
By Domi.
Yeah, well, he's not better than Domi. Domi could actually score, especially later in his career. He started to be more of a scorer.
Yeah,
but he's better than a lot of those guys. But I mean, not by a ton. And I just don't think – yeah, I mean, Vegas, signed him to an extension last offseason, but they could move him if they feel like they want to upgrade or they want to make another move. Because remember, they have center problems.
A lot of center problems.
They have a lot of center problems. So their primary focus is probably going to have to be trying to upgrade at center this offseason in some sort of way. So, I mean, I would wonder what they would do there. But I don't see Ryan Reeves as a target. I don't. I
don't even see a Ryan Reeves type of player, but I know what he was trying to. TD, thank you very much. And yes, I'm operating on 4 hours of sleep, and I have to. I'll be doing this again tomorrow, so it's gonna be nice. But just wrapping this up, Seattle. The league wants Seattle to be successful from the get-go. They'll probably stick to the wild card playoff format. I'm not sure if that's going to really help Seattle, though. I think Central is very heavy. And you know what? Actually, that would help Seattle. But you're only getting 3 teams. So,
I mean, maybe
Dave Haxtell is going to do a great job.
I just think that, if anything, the division format where you give the top 2 seeds in each division and you take the points and you give them the top 4 seeds and let the rest of the seeds battle it out for 8. But I mean, there was words going around that they're talking about having a play-in round, and you know what?
We will talk about that tomorrow, and I know one of us is going to be very fired up about that, and I'm pretty sure the second one is also going to be fired up. All right, I'm gonna take one more. By the way, Sean, thanks for signing in. With Gallant, he had Thornton in Florida and Reeves in Vegas. I feel like that he still has some old school mentality of a player like Reeves. Could be wrong. No, you're not wrong with that. But he might try to I don't know who would it be, but
it's not that you're necessarily wrong. It's just that I don't know if Reeves is the guy that they're gonna. I don't know if Drury wants to go give up assets for a guy like that. And
I don't think he gives up assets. I'm actually checking on one guy. I'm just gonna throw this name out, and I'm pretty sure he's under contract.
Now I'm curious to see who you're talking about.
Well, a guy that could fight, has got talent, and could score a little bit. Okay. Might fit in the Rangers budget. If I threw out Wayne Simmons, would you be okay with that?
He looks like he's done. Honestly, he just did not look great in Toronto. I know that you bring him in for 4th line duty, but I get it. I don't mind the player, but he just looked like he was running off fumes. You know, and you play the way he did for as long as he did, that's what's going to happen. You know, you play that rough and tumble type of game, it wears on your body after a while.
Yeah.
So I'm with Anthony on here. Simmons is shot. I think he's
I mean, I was throwing that out as a 4th liner, backup Chris Kreider for an injury, stuff like that, like being the net front presence of the power play. Although who knows, Colin Blackwell's certainly developing, according to David Quinn, probably. We'll have to see about the good intentions, how the intentions are there. All right. We love doing these. That's why I turned 10 minutes into half an hour. I want no part of Sims. Okay. I'm throwing out names of guys that will fight, drop the gloves, will be tougher.
I think the Wilson incident is such an isolated incident that I don't think that's going to be their focus. That's all. That's what I could have just said earlier, and that's why I don't think Reeves is going to be a target for them. But you give me Cizikas, give me Koralik, give me Thomas Noshik, give me those grit sandpaper guys that can play. Blake Coleman. If Blake Coleman's price drops a bit, I think the Rangers will definitely be in on him.
I see Blake Coleman going to $4 million. We have a tease right here before we get up. that Anthony Larocco will be on the show tomorrow. Well, no duh. And he'll be talking about the exit interview. About Casey Zibanejad, but the exit interview didn't give me the warm and fuzzies.
Ooh,
so
sounds like someone that's headed for free agency.
And unfortunately, it's sort of, I can't help but keep bringing this up. He's already making $3.5 million, so he's gonna look for $4 million. And at that point, I'm gonna say, yeah, thanks, Casey.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't know if he'll actually get that in a flat cap world right now, because
I agree.
That's really going to be the problem. Is a guy like him would be looking for that payday, and there might be a team that'll give him it, but I don't know where he's going to get that from. Maybe a team with some cap space that's desperate to overpay, but is he going to want to go and play for a team like that?
Yeah, he definitely wants a raise over 3.35. Of
course he does.
And the Players Association is always going to try to fight to get the money up. So that's the thing. So that's why I kind of don't see that. I do have to say, if we're going to get as many comments out of our co-host that's not on the show, perhaps he should just be on the show.
Yeah.
But no. And obviously we wish we had you here. But we're going to have you in 24 hours anyway. But it's I'm not convinced Zibanejad isn't just the sum of that line. I think the guy is a good player overall. Would I want him on my team? Yes. Do I want to pay for him? Hell no. I don't want to pay for Pavel Buchnevich. He's been on my team. He's been on the Rangers for the last 4 years.
I just pulled up his numbers, and I tell you right now, his numbers the last 2 seasons, really not anything to write home about. He had 14 points, 10 goals in 48 games in 2020.
He's not the 20 goal scorer that was 2 years ago.
In 2019. No. But he had 14 points in 56 games this past year. I mean, that's a down year. That's not a good year to have going into free agency and being Corey Perry actually might be a really good idea for them.
Yeah, man, I thought about talking about Corey Perry.
I like that one. I do like that one.
Yeah, but I thought he was on a 2-year deal, but
no, Corey Perry, I believe, is a free agent. I like Corey Perry. I like that idea. I still think he has something to offer. He's definitely got juice in the tank. I think Zibanejad would be a really good one, but if he's looking for a raise over what he's making right now, his 2021 season was definitely not going to help that.
Yeah. But again, he's going to say, I'm an elite defensive center. So
offense matters.
Yeah, and it does. All right, but seriously, I do have to get some sleep because I am working 9 hours tonight. And I want to try to make sure I'm also awake tomorrow to answer more questions. We're doing this again, 12:15 again tomorrow. That I'm going to put up a post about this in about 2 hours. Love to have you guys all with us again. We'll answer more questions tomorrow. I would have loved to have hit the gym today, but in me versus Insomnia has won with a flawless victory and hopefully not a fatality. So anyway, so everybody, thank you very much for joining us for the Stanley Cup Finals preview, and we're gonna have The Rock back tomorrow, and of course we always have the Filk right there. John, you want to sign off? Say goodnight to everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, joining in, leaving the comments, asking the questions. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. And everybody, have a good day.
Yes. Take it easy. We'll see you soon.